next section which comes after method, that is recording of data. Results. Okay. So now you have to write the results. So first thing which you have to write in the result, that is what are the characteristics of the studies. Now all the 29 studies which you have included, so what are the main characteristics of all those 29 studies? Main characteristics means what are the important findings, or on what methodology those studies are based, what are the important findings. So now there are four characteristics which are considered by the author here, that is coherence and quality of life, coherence of sense of coherence and participating in healthy behaviors of lifestyles, then sense of coherence and stability over time, then sense of coherence and social support as generalized resistance resources. Now there are three ways of defining the characteristics of studies. First way is like you can write it like this: what themes or what are the characteristics which are common in all those studies. So you can group them accordingly. Like for example, as it is mentioned here, that sense of coherence and quality of life. So maybe there are 4 to 5 studies in which this particular methodology or this particular methodology is used, or this is the main feature of those studies. Okay, so that is used. Then the sense of coherence and participating in healthy behaviors and lifestyle, maybe in 7 to 8 studies they were based on this particular feature, or this is the main characteristic of that particular part of those particular studies. So like when you find something common in those studies, you group them accordingly, and then you write, dividing into them into group, then you write it like this as it is mentioned here. Then the second way, which is the most easiest way of writing the characteristics, like in a paragraph in 4 to 5 lines, one by one, you can write the main features of the studies. You can write it like this: the name of the author. Suppose the name of the author is Soumya Gupta. So Soumya et al. Et.al. like this. I hope that you have seen this is et.al. Okay, means that the et al. Means the other authors are also involved. So you can write like Soumya et al. The year you can mention, in which year the study is published. For example, you can write it here 2006. Okay, then you can write in that full text what are the main characteristic or main feature of the study. This is the simplest method of explaining the main characteristics of any of the study. So this is your first study. Then don't give it numbers, don't number them 1, 2, 3, don't write that number because that format is not accepted. Just write it in a simple divided, like you can start from here, from the first paragraph, Soumya et al. 2006, then what are the main characteristics of the study in 4 to 5 lines you can explain, that's it. Then after that, the second study, whatever second study you have taken, like the author is Nabamita, so you can write as Nabamita et al. It is published in the year 2008. So you can write 2008 explains. Then you can write the findings of the study. So like this is the most easiest way of explaining the characteristics of the studies. Then the third way of explaining the characteristics of the studies, that is in the tabular format. Okay. So for that, what you have to do, you have to make a table like this. Okay. Then here, in one column, you write the name of the authors, like Soumya et al., Nabamita et al., Kia et al., like this, whatever the name of the authors are et al. Then you write the year in which the studies are published, 2006, 2008, 2010, in whichever year the studies are published. Then you can write about the country where the study is done. Okay, you can write about this. And then you can write about the sample size, or the like if the population is different, then you can write the population like male, female and all. Otherwise, you can just write the sample size. Like here in this study, the study was done on 30 individuals. Here, the second study was done on 50 individuals. The third study, it is done on 15 individuals. So like this, you can write the sample size. Then in the last column, you can write the characteristics. Okay, in the last column, you can mention the characteristics. So I will show you that in some other article, I'll show you that how you can write it in the tabular format. So these are the two most easiest form of writing the characteristics of each of the studies which you have included in your article. That is, in either you can write it in the paragraph format. Paragraph format, it becomes more complex to understand. It is confusing also. Then the other way of presenting it in the way that the readers can easily understand, that is in the tabular format. Write it in the tabular format. Okay. So and then there is a third way, like this, which is mentioned here, that you can like 4 to 5 general characteristics which are common in the studies that you can define. Then according to those characteristics, you can sort out the studies, and then you can explain the characteristics of the studies as it is explained here in this review. Okay. So this is what you have to write in the result section. Okay, then like how you have to write the result of the systematic review and meta-analysis, because there you are doing the data interpretation and data analysis. So that we will discuss later on when we will discuss about the systematic review. Here we are not handling any kind of data or data. We are not doing any kind of data interpretation and data analysis in scoping review and then in critical review and literature review. Then no need to mention about the data. Like this only you can write it. Okay, so now next is we were discussing about the next section of the review, that is discussion. So in the discussion, you have to write 3 things. Discussion, it is divided into 3 parts. First is interpretation. Like what is your interpretation from the studies? Like you can write your interpretation, your opinion, okay, that you can write from the studies. Second, what are the challenges when you're writing a review? So you have to mention the challenges also, like interpretation and the challenges. What are the challenges you have faced when doing this review? Then third thing which you have to mention in the review, that is what is the strength of this review? What is the strength of this review and what is the limitation of the review? Limitation or the shortcomings or what is the weakness of the study or the review, that you have to mention here in the discussion part. Okay, so like here the main interpretation or the main finding from the study that is mentioned here, at is the present review centered on the relationship between sense of coherence and cardiovascular health in adults, providing evidence about the use of salutogenic model in cardiovascular prevention, rehabilitation and research. So this is the main interpretation which is made here by the author from the data which he has collected. So that information you have to write. So whatever information you can collect from, or whatever outcome or findings which you have, which you collect or which you find it that these are the findings according to you from this study, so that you have to write. Then what are the challenges which the author has faced in doing this review? So here that is explained in this paragraph. Okay, and then what are the other important findings, and what are the so that all is explained here. What is the strength of the studies? What are the main positive points of the study, you can say, or what are the pros of the study that you can say? So that is mentioned in these paragraphs that you can read. I'll share the link of this document with you so that you can read it in detail whenever you have time. And then, so here as it is, as here it is given.
Where will get the link?
I will send you the link. I'll give you in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay, you can download it and then you can read it anytime when you want. Okay, like here, so here it is written as according to Antonovsky. Antonovsky is the name of the author. Okay, so here according to Antonovsky, so you can write as according to, like you can write your name according to Navamita, and then you can write what is the opinion of the author. If there is some other author who has some strong opinion to share, so accordingly you can write. Then after that, now the result, what are the results, what are the main characteristics of the result that you can mention. So like this you have to mention in the mention your, what is the 3-4 things you have to mention in the discussion. That is, what is your interpretation, what is your opinion about the studies or about this review, like what are the findings and the information you have collected from this review, that you have to mention. That is your interpretation. Next thing you have to mention about the challenges which you have faced while doing the review. The third thing is the strength, and the fourth thing is the weakness. What are the strength and limitations of the study? If there are no limitations, then you can skip that point. Otherwise, but you have to mention that what are the strengths of the study as it is mentioned in this review. Okay, so like this you have to mention. Then after that, the main point, that is what is the review is. The review is the scoping review. Okay, so now you have to write in the conclusion what is the review, what is the scope of this review, and what is the future prospects of this review, that you can write. Similarly, when you are writing a critical review, then you have to, in the critical review, I will tell you what you have to write. So in the critical review, you have to do the quality assessment, and you have to give your judgment, your review, that whether this particular article is worth reading or not, what is the significant information this article contains, and what are the questions which are not yet answered. So that is a type of a review, like when you're telling the strength and weakness of a particular review. Okay, so that you have to mention. So in the same way, when it is the scope, now here you are writing a scoping review, so you have to mention that this scoping review showed that studies based on the salutogenic theoretical framework have founded the role of focused on the role of SOC as a mediator of stressful life events, which contributes to health promotion and protection, while also allowing for an understanding of how people respond to the challenges of living with a cardiovascular disease. These studies also found an association between a strong SOC and high quality of life, like this, that what is the scope, what is the future of this particular study, and what are the opportunities which the studies bring, so that you have to mention. Okay, so this is how you can give the conclusion of this review, where you are writing about that what is actually the scope of this review, that is what your objective is of writing this scoping review. Now that is mentioning in your conclusion part. Now in some articles you'll find that conclusion part is not a separate section, that is combined with the discussion. So that is most probably you will be writing the final conclusion of your review in the last 1 or 2 paragraphs. Otherwise, if it is stated that you have to write a separate section of conclusion, so in that there will be then in that case your conclusion section is separate. So in a 1 or 2 paragraphs you're explaining what is your opinion, or what actually, if this is a scoping review, then you have to write what is actually the scope of this review. Okay, the next is, then after when your review is complete, you have to write the references, and the references you can write whatever style. If there is a style which is mentioned by the journal in the instructions to author, that this is a particular style which you have to follow for writing a review, like Vancouver style or Harvard style, whatever style is given to you, that you can mention. Otherwise you can so that you can you have to follow. Otherwise you can follow any of your style, any of your choice, but that should be consistent. Like it is not like this, that few references you're writing using one style and the others you're then after that you are switch to the second type of style. No, you have to follow. There should be a uniformity. If you're choosing on your own, generally the Vancouver style is followed. Here also the Vancouver style is followed. Then you have to give the then you have to write the references in the same, following the same style, following the uniformity. The uniformity should be there. Okay, then one more thing which you have to mention in your review, that is contribution of authors. Now here in this article, the contribution of authors is mentioned, I guess, at last. Yes, like this. You have to write the contribution of authors like this. Now in some articles, the contribution of author, it is given in somewhere in the between when you are explaining the methodology. There only in some articles it is mentioned that what is the contribution of the authors, but here and in some articles the contribution is stated at the end, but it is important that you have to mention that what is the contribution of the authors, like this, that the study is designed by these authors, then data is collected by these authors, data analysis and interpretation was done by these authors, discussion of the results is done by these authors, drafting or critical review of content, that is written by these authors, and final revision and final approval of the final version is also done by these authors. So here, like this, you have to mention the contribution of the authors. Now here, as it is mentioned, there were the name of the 2 authors are only mentioned, but sometimes there are 4 to 5 authors are there. Then the name of the authors you can write in like you can use the initials also. Like for me, I can use the initials SG. So similarly, you can use the initials and then write the SG and so author is responsible for doing the literature searching. Then if there is any conflict of interest, that you have to write. So there is no now if the study is funded, then you have to give the name of the funding body who has funded your authors, and if the funding body has also some contribution in writing this review, then you can write the role of the funders. Otherwise, if there is no role of funders, then you can just write the name of the funders. If there is no funding which is done, then you can just write there is no funding which is done. Okay, just no funding or funders were not involved, like this you can write. Then conflict of interest. So if there is any conflict of interest, then you can mention, and how those conflict of interest are resolved, that you can mention. Conflict of interest can be between the authors, it can be between the authors and the funders, okay? Or it can be if the reviewer are some other person, then in that case it can be between the authors and the reviewers, okay? So like this you have to write. Then these are the dates, correspondence, authors, so that depends what your study is. So like this you have to write the review, any type of review, whether it is a scoping review, whether it is a critical review, or any other kind of review. This is how you have to do it. So now the second type of review, it is known as the narrative review or literature review, which is the most easiest type and the most commonest type of review which is done. And this is a traditional type of review in which you do not have to do anything. You just have to, the methodology is very simple, where you do not have to use a very complex methodology as we have discussed. You just have to search the literature, and whatever updated information you have related to that particular topic on which you are doing a literature review, that you have to write. That is simply a literature review, or we can call it as the most the advanced term which is now used for a literature review, that is a narrative review. Okay, so and why this is called as a narrative review? Because you are narrating something. Okay, suppose if I have read something, or if I have read any article and I'm narrating that article to you, I'm telling that the important findings of that article in a summarized form. So that is known as a narration. Okay, so that is true for, so that's why it is named as narrative review, but it is simply the literature review. I hope that you all have seen a literature review many a times. Okay, so this literature review is simple. It is just you have to, a topic is provided to you, and from the studies you have to collect the information, the relevant information, and then you have to write it in the form of a review. The important findings you have to write in the form of a review. So that is known as a literature or narrative review. Okay, so a literature review is a search, evaluation, and summarization of the available literature on in your given subject or chosen topic area. Okay, so it is a most traditional type of review which is done, and it just involves the compilation of the information. You just compile the information which you have taken from the other sources, you summarize that information, you write it in your own words. Okay, so that is how a literature review is written. Okay, so it qualitatively summarizes. Now there are two words, that is qualitative and quantitative. So do you understand what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative? Do you know? So I'll tell you what is qualitative and what is quantitative. Qualitative means that when in a review, you are only writing about the characteristics of the study. You're not writing about any data. You're not doing any kind of data interpretation. You're not analyzing the data. So you do not have to do anything with the numbers. Just you are only concerned with the information. That is known as the qualitative review. And quantitative review means when in quantitative review, when you are doing the data interpretation, you are doing the data analysis. That means where you are concerned with the the numbers which are or the data which is obtained from the study. Okay, not only the findings but also the data. So that is known as the quantitative review. That is known as a quantitative. So now there are two types of studies which are done: the qualitative studies and the quantitative studies. Quantitative studies are when you are doing the study and you are on the basis of the data, means on the basis of the numbers which are obtained, you are interpreting the data, you are coming up to a finding, like this is the finding. But in the qualitative studies, what happens? Qualitative studies, you can tell when you are only assessing the behavior. It can be the behavioral study. Those studies which are based on interviews or focus groups. So they, and from that interviews or focus groups, the data which you have collected, or it is based on the observations which you have made, and from those observations, from that interviews, or from that information, that whatever information or the data you have collected, that you are representing in your review. So that is known as a qualitative review, qualitative studies. So here also in this qualitative, here in this review also, that is in the literature review, you are qualitatively summarizing summarizes the evidence on a topic using informal or subjective methods to collect and interpret the studies. Means here only you are not handling the data, you are not doing the data interpretation, you are not doing the data analysis, just you are collecting the information, whatever significant findings from the literature, and then you are qualitatively summarizing that information. So that is known as so that is how you can qualitatively summarize any information, like as you have seen in the previous example which I have shown you of scoping review. Okay, and then the components of a literature review is, first you have to first you have to write the introduction. Like it starts with, of course, the title, abstract is written all kind of reviews, then introduction, method, discussion, conclusion, and references. So here the links which are provided here, you can see, like in this the previous one, that is in the scoping review also, there is a link provided in this also. So these links are the examples of the articles, so that you can understand that how these reviews are written. So if we'll discuss each of the example in the class, it will take a lot of time. So what you can do is, I've already explained you the method, like how these reviews can be done, what are the steps which are followed. So I hope you have well understood it. So in that case, what you can do, you can go through these links. Okay, later on, whenever you have time, you can go through these links. These links are provided in the slides only. So you just have to click here, and that particular article will open. And then you can understand that how these articles, how these type of reviews are written. I'm not expecting, and also it is not fair to expect that by going through one article only, you will understand that how these reviews are written and you will be able to do the review. No, you have to go through various articles. So whenever you have your free time, you can go through various articles which are, you can select any topic, like suppose for example, if you select hypertension, so you can write on Google like scoping review on hypertension. You will get various reviews which are written on scoping reviews which are written on hypertension, or any topic you can choose which is of your interest area, and you can go through these reviews. Maybe there is something different you will find in those reviews, and then if you are not understanding it, we can discuss it in the class. Okay, so you can so in your free time, go through various kind of reviews. So more you will go through these reviews, more you will understand that how you have to write these reviews, how you have to present them. Now next type of review is the critical review. Okay, so critical review is nothing but it is simply when you are critically examining any study, or you can say that when you are dissecting any study. So this you will understand with a simple example of, which is a very common nowadays, that suppose if you want to watch a movie. So first, we always, when the movie is released, so we always go through the reviews of that movie, and then on the basis of the reviews or the ratings, we decide that whether we'll go to the theater to watch this movie or not. Okay, so now when the review, which is the unbiased review which is done, okay, I'm talking about the unbiased reviews which is done. So how they are done? First, they will tell you they will tell you what is the plot of the movie, what are the important importance of the movie, what is the plot of the movie, on what on what story or on what thing that movie is based. Then after they will tell you some strengths of the movie, some are the strong points of the movie. Then they will tell you what are the weak points of the movie. Okay, and then at the end they will tell you their opinion. Okay, what is their opinion related to the movie? Not actually, not opinion is not the right word to use here. Their judgment. Okay, like what is their judgment that whether you should go to watch a movie or not. Then it is your decision on the basis of the review, which they have shared. According to that only you will decide that whether you have to watch that movie or not. So similarly here it happens with the literatures as well, the studies also, like where in this when you're doing a critical review, or it is also known as a critical appraisal. Somewhere it is written as critical review, if it is written as critical appraisal, that is the same thing. Okay, so where you are first, you are specific. First you are, of course, you tell about the what are the characteristics of the studies, what are the significant and main findings of the study, and then you will tell your judgment. That then you will tell what are the strong points of the study, what are the weak points of the study, and then you will tell your judgment that whether this study is worth reading or not, whether this study is trustworthy, whether the findings are trustworthy or not. You can question on the, if something which is not clear to you, if you have not understood, then you can question that information, you can question that information, you can present your evaluation, you can give your judgment. So that is a critical review. Okay, so a critical review is the summarization and evaluation of the ideas and information in an article. Okay, so when you first of all you have to summarize the information which is given in an article, and then on the basis of that you have to share the information. On when the basis of that information which is shared in that article, you will be giving your judgment. Okay, it involves careful thinking, careful and clear thinking, considering both the strengths and weakness in the material under review. Okay, so if you only talk about the strength or if you only write about the weakness, so that is a biased review. Okay, so if you want to write because as a medical writer, your responsibility is to, or as a reviewer, your responsibility is to give the unbiased review. So in that case, you have to write about the strength as well as about the weaknesses of a study. Okay, then scanning the literature, questioning the information, presenting an evaluation or judgment. Okay, then after that, on the basis of the information which is shared with you, which you have collected, so you will do, you can question that information if something is not clear, or if still there is a gap, or if any area of study it is not studied, it is not researched as it should be, it is not researched well, then you can question that information, you can give your evaluation, you can give your judgment. And but that judgment should also be logically. Okay, you have to give the logic behind that judgment. And also you can by scanning the literature, you can present your own judgment, your own evaluation on that particular literature. So what are the components of a critical review? First, introduction is given. So in the same way, now the method of doing a critical review also, that is same, where you have to give the brief explanation of the topic in the introduction section, and at the end, or you have to write what is the objective or what is the aim of writing an article. Then in the summary, you have to write the summary of main points of the article which is explained. Then in the main body, you have to give the your critic, and like you have to evaluate, you have to give your evaluation, your strength of the article, weakness of the article, and what are the important features of the text. Then in the end, that is in the conclusion section, you can give your statement, like your overall opinion of the text. It can also include recommendations and some further explanation of the judgment to show that it is fair and reasonable. So as I said, that when you are giving when you're giving the judgment of any article, so your judgment should also be fair, and it should be it should have some logic, and it should be reasonable. It is not like this that any judgment you are giving. No, you should explain your judgment, that if whatever judgment you are giving, so how you are giving that judgment. What is the basis of that judgment? Okay, so this is how you can write a critical review. So this is a critical review for you. So you can go through this link which is given here, and you can search for the other articles also. If you're not getting any article by the name of critical review, then you can use critical appraisal. Critical appraisal is also the term which is used. Now I will tell you on the basis of what points you can judge a literature. Okay, what are the questions you can put up? So I have to tell you that on what basis you can do the critical review, what can be the questions on the basis of which you can do a critical review. So first is you have to see that does the study have a significantly, does the study has is having any it is scientifically interesting, or does it have any important aim or objective? Okay, so there are certain studies which do not have that much of they do not have that much of content to offer, or they are not that much scientifically important, because maybe there are some other studies also which are done in the similar context, and or some studies they do not have such important objective or aim. So you have to see first that whether the study have a is the study is scientifically interesting, and also the study has any important aim or not. Then will the study outcome provide a clinical significance to the readers? So is the study does the study come up with some significant outcome or not? Okay, then you can comment on the methodology. You can judge the methodology of the study. So what is the methodology of the study? And depending on that, you can write that whether this methodology is practically possible or not, whatever the study design which is used. Okay, so it is well designed or not, the study is well designed or not, in the approach which is used for doing the study is correct or not. Okay, so that you have to write. Then after that, you can comment on the sample size, that is the sample size enough to find a reliable and meaningful difference. Whether this sample size, like sample size means you can detect the sample size statistically on the basis of the number of individuals or the patients who are involved in the study. So accordingly, like what is the sample size which is used? So if the sample size is of 10, okay, then 10 is not a significant number, because it is the study is done on a very lesser population. But the sample size is more than that, like it is 50, it is 100. That means that the study is done on a significant number of participants, and then you will be able to get, because there will be a difference in their ethnicity, they have their demographical characteristics different. Okay, their community, their racism can be different. So hence the results from the study which is obtained are more justified. Okay, so like this, on these basis, like on the basis of the sample size, its aim, what is the methodology which is used, and what is the final outcome of the study, on the basis of these points you can judge a study. Then suppose if it is a clinical research, if it is a clinical research study which is done, then you can talk about you can comment on the ethical considerations as well, because the clinical studies which are to be done, they should be done ethically, following certain guidelines. So you can write about that also. Then whether the additional information like funding and conflict of interest, contribution of the like not the contribution, sorry, especially the funding and the conflict of interest, whether it has been disclosed in the study or not. Okay, so then you can so on that also, on the basis of that also, you can judge a study. So these are the points which you can consider when you are writing a critical review. Okay, and above all, then how the study is presented. Okay, and the data of the study that which is analyzed statistically. So if the name of the software is disclosed in the study or not. So especially these are the secondary points which you can consider for analyzing the study or doing the quality assessment. But the main points which you have to consider when you are doing a statistical, when you are writing a critical review, that is, first you have to write about, you have to see that the study is having any important objective or aim, and whether the study is significant, scientifically interesting or not. And then you can see that about the methodology, like what is the methodology which is used, what the study design which is used, you can write about it, whether this methodology is practically possible or not. And the next thing which you can then you can write about, or you can review or analyze the outcome or the finding of the study, whether it has any significance, clinical significance, the outcome have or not, or the finding of the study. And also you can write about the sample size. So like on this, and then the secondary points which you can consider, that which I have told you, that is the ethical consideration, regulations, and funding, whether the funding of the study is disclosed or not, conflict of interest are disclosed or not. So all these points you have to keep in mind when you are critically analyzing any literature. Okay, understood? Is it clear?